It's the Eastside Fans Football Podcast. Today is Tuesday, November 29th. It's been a minute. I'm rejoined by Joe Briner for a full episode. I'm Nick Santoni, as always. And Joe, before I get you in, maybe talk about the time you've missed and what you reflected on, and we get into some of the matchups that are pretty important this week. I really thought that Raiders-Seahawks game was going to be a great fantasy game, and I was right. And here's my proposal. Next year, just Seattle and Vegas in a best-of-17 series.
I'm down. It was a great game.
Yeah, I liked watching it. I was in studio, and it was keeping me entertained the entire time during the Ravens post game.
Yeah, my only negative, I would say, is just, golly, they just did not want to run the ball on first down. Kenneth Walker was just not getting the touches. He did find the end zone twice still. We'll get into that game. But yeah, I'm back for a full episode. No more of this. I've been on and off sick multiple times throughout the past couple weeks. Ended up having the flu. Last week, actually, I had the flu. That was my flu episode on Monday that I was there for half of it. I was hurt, and I didn't know I had the flu at the time. Finally better. I kind of got off all the sickness, I would say, Friday evening. I was finally feeling myself again this past week. So excited to be here, ready to just be back because it's felt really weird the last couple of weeks. I haven't had a normal life, to be honest. It's just been terrible sickness left and right, missing podcasts left and right. So I'm back. Happy to be here.
It's those damn wiener kids.
It's exactly what it is. Getting me sick so much. I washed my hands like 12 times today. Used hand sanitizer a bunch.
At Chick-fil-A for lunch.
I did.
We all saw that.
Shout out my girl. Blessed me with some lunch today. It was awesome.
All right. Well, let's get into the news, Joe. Elijah Mitchell, possible MCL sprain. Man, I'm a Christian McCaffrey owner in another league. If you go back and look at the snap, sometimes it doesn't look like he plays that much, but my God, does he get way too many touches for my liking. So,
well, this is good for you then, Christian McCaffrey owners out there.
I think McCaffrey also got banged up a little bit, but he seems more fine than Mitchell, who could really miss some time. So, going forward, it would most likely be just McCaffrey. I'm trying to think who else is there because who's left at this point that's there? I can't think of anyone else.
I don't know. Me neither.
I know JaMychal Hasty is it.
Yeah, JaMychal Hasty's gone. Jeff Wilson's gone. I don't know. I honestly don't know who's still there. I'm sure there's somebody.
Gone.
I'm sure there's somebody that they're gonna find ways to get touches though, because they love giving multiple backs touches.
Yeah, well, we'll get into McCaffrey's disappointing week. Damian Harris, thigh, left the game. I think he might have left on crutches.
Yes, I was going to add that.
I mean, this was on Thanksgiving, but...
I mean, it's just given more and more reason for Ramondre Stevenson to take the reins.
It was already his backfield, but
yeah,
I mean, this just kind of cements it. I think if you were ever thinking about playing Harris, maybe in a deeper league as a flex, this kind of puts it all out together because I think it'll continue to just be... thinking of Raheem Mostert, but not him.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson. That's his backfield.
Damian Harris is a good running back. That's the sucky part about this is he's kind of, I mean, he's losing his gig. Ramondre Stevenson's great. Don't get me wrong. He's taken full opportunity. He's maximized it to his fullest extent. But Damian Harris is a good running back from Alabama. I mean, just kind of sucks to see him continue to get injured considering he's never been crazy good for fantasy, but he was always good in the NFL, getting the job done for the Patriots, and I liked him, so kind of sucks a little bit that he just continually getting hurt.
Never been a great pass catcher, which kind of led to Stevenson's involvement more, and then Stevenson's really been doing well running the football this year, so it kind of led to the all-around takeover. Aaron Rodgers, ribs, left Sunday Night Football. There's no timeline. I think the quote today from LaFleur said they have no answer right now. I mean, it's just not even 24 hours removed. He looked decent. I know he's dealing with a thumb injury, but I don't know. It's pretty late for you, Joe. Did you watch the end of that game?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was the thumb that took him out initially, but it was actually the ribs. And from what I heard on the fantasy footballers and stuff is that Aaron Rodgers is in no rush to get back. If they are mathematically in the have the opportunity to still get to the playoffs, then he wants to play. But if not, it kind of seemed as if by his comments that he's not really stressing about playing because he was worried about like a punctured lung with a broken rib, I think. So wouldn't surprise me if Jordan Love gets at least a few starts. Yeah, he did. When he filled in, he did look good.
A couple guys real quick. Allen Robinson, done for the year with, I don't know what it was, something with a foot, but I didn't necessarily see what it was. Darnell Mooney, done for the year, and he had surgery on his ankle. Travis Etienne, he hurt his foot probably on the second drive of the game for Jacksonville. He went back to the locker room, came back, and he was kind of sitting on the sideline the entire time. And they did say he was cleared to return after the game, but they just decided to stick with Hasty. So I think it's up in the air whether he plays this next week, but the fact that they did clear him last week, and it's not like he got into street clothes. He was still in his pads. They just decided not to put him back out there. So look out for ETN status as the week goes on. Melvin Gordon, who was previously cut by the Broncos, signs with the Chiefs. Boy, what a turnaround for that guy.
Where did you see that, just out of curiosity? Because I can't find anything.
That was on, I got it from our one app we have, the Fantasy Life app.
Gotcha.
And it came from Tom Pelissero.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely believe you. I hadn't seen it yet, so that's all I was wondering.
I will say he's signing with the practice squad.
Okay. Well, hopefully this doesn't end up causing any. I mean, Ronald Jones was just getting a little bit of action, which was so weird to see.
They're really competing with Miami for just how many names can you have in the running back room.
I don't know if you'll be able to beat Miami of last year when they had like
this year's damn good. Think about everybody. They still got Myles Gaskin.
Yeah. I saw Myles Gaskin was getting some late game work when they were destroying Houston.
Oh. They had Duke Johnson.
Big Duke still alive and well in the NFL.
So Melvin Gordon, hopefully that doesn't change anything because I really like Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know if that was his first career touchdown that he scored this week?
I think second. I feel like he scored in like the first game of the season.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I think he got work. I think he scored game 1.
I think you might be right about that. And then Deshaun Watson, he is officially back. He will be playing this week against the Houston Texans.
Next week, I think. I think this week's the bye, and then
no. This is this week.
Is it?
Yeah, I thought it was the bye too, but it's this week.
Why did I think he was coming back post bye or something? That's why it was.
It is post bye, but the Browns already had their bye. I messed that up last episode. I also got confused. But I will say this last game he played was January 3rd, 2021. It's a long time ago.
I believe Jackson drafted him, too.
He did. He's been rostered for a while in almost all of my leagues.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I mean, you would assume that this is just a bump up for all the pass catchers. I mean, it's been a while.
For Watson.
Or you mean just playing him in general?
Would you play him? I don't know what, I guess it would depend on what your options were, but what if you had someone like Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, it would be really hard to start him this week 1. It is against Houston, and the storyline is there, but it would be really hard to start him. I mean, long story short, I would have to wait and see. I don't know how I could plug him in week 1.
He'll be started in our league because
Kyler's
Jackson
on bye.
Did draft him, and Kyler's on bye.
You're right. I mean, he's projected 20 points as I look at it now. Josh Jacobs projected 25 fucking points. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, Houston hasn't been a great quarterback matchup because of how well teams have been able to run against them. So that's another thing, considering he's probably going to be sticking the ball in Nick Chubb's gut a lot. I don't love the start, but at the same time, if Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson of old, he'll be a great play.
And then 2 more things news-wise, Joe, that I wanted your blind reaction on, both connected to Washington.
All right, let's hear it.
Your thoughts on the Sean Taylor?
Yep.
I don't know if they called it a statue or a memorial.
They did call it a statue. I saw multiple different reports saying statue, which was the weirdest part. At first I didn't see the statue stuff. I just saw the memorial, and I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. I was like, okay, this is like the
The bare minimum.
Yeah, the bare minimum, of course. I was happy that they used like the Redskins helmet, his old uniform, all of that. I thought that was a good touch, but
Soccer cleats.
at the same
Did you see
time,
he's wearing soccer cleats?
I did not see the cleats.
Yeah,
But
he's just wearing like Adidas soccer cleats.
I mean, they had him on a Dick's Sporting Good mannequin, and I was
Yeah.
just like, really? Like part of the mannequin was like showing, like put some sleeves on the guy if there's gonna be metal rods sticking out of his arms. Like, I mean, I
It
hated
was.
that. I mean, I thought the thought
Well-
was there, but they never seemed to execute on the actual action itself.
I was so confused because I thought I saw like the reveal and like everyone, a bunch of people on Twitter were like going up in arms about it,
Yeah.
and I went, "Well, did they actually ever call it a statue?"
I
And
definitely
I
saw
think
some
they
things
did.
that said
But
statue.
even if it was a memorial, it still doesn't look good.
And it's kind of strange because when they do stuff like this, seems like it just comes out of nowhere. Like I didn't know
No, I
that
didn't know
this
about
was
this
going to
until
happen.
the day
Neither did
of.
I. And I see all like information about the team, and I didn't hear about any of this until all of a sudden it just happened.
I'd like to know what the sports junkies think about this.
Yeah, I'd have to listen in. I haven't listened yet, but I would love to hear what they were saying about it. That's a good point.
And then my second thing, Brian Robinson's big hat. What did you?
Dude, that was awesome. That was so cool. I don't know where he got that or what that is. Like, is that just his, or is that like a
don't know.
new thing that like sometimes teams will like pass around something in the locker room for the player of the game.
I don't know. I saw
don't
you
know
had a
either.
big hat though.
It was really cool. I liked it.
All right. Well, that was the news. Let's actually jump into irrelevant TDs of the week.
Sure.
And then maybe the Soups and Tylers before we talk about some trades that went down.
Cool. Sounds good.
Relevant TDs of the week.
Who in the blue hell are you?
Holy cow. Hold your
Yeah.
buckle up. We got a long list.
Biggest one of the year.
Couple shout outs real quick. Van Jefferson scored this week. He's owned in 5% of the league, so just missing the cutoff. I know I usually put underneath, but I thought I'd say no to that. And then Richie James of the New York Giants becomes the first person ever to pretty much score out of this category. Still owned in under 5% of leagues, but would have been his third time. So congrats, Richie. Your award's in the mail. You will not be on this list.
You
And
are
you're the
now
first one
relevant.
ever. Yeah.
I guess that's what that means.
Let's try to run through this quick. A lot of names. Peyton Hendershot, just another generic tight end, white tight end on the Dallas Cowboys. He scored.
Oh, I will stop you. I know this is early, but did you see the celebration that they did? The
No.
whack-a-mole tight ends in the Salvation Army big like thing. Remember when Zeke jumped
The
in
red
the big,
thing? Yeah.
Mhm. All three tight ends like hopped in it, and somebody. So I forget who was pretending to do the whack-a-mole, but they were doing like a whack-a-mole with tight ends in the Salvation Army thing. It was really good.
Was this Hendershot's touchdown or one of
Yes,
Schultz's?
that was his touchdown.
Okay.
I think Schultz might
Interesting.
have been the one that was whack-a-mole and all the other tight ends that were in there. For
Good.
people who saw it, they know. It was a good one.
They dig. They dig.
Yeah, they get it.
In Jacksonville, we got a couple. Jermichael Hasty scored, mainly due to the fact that, you lost ETN for pretty much the entirety of the game. He scored through the air. Jamal Agnew scored in Tampa. This one was Keeft. This guy, I'm pretty sure, is a fullback. He scored. I was watching Red Zone when this happened. He scored for Tampa, and I thought to myself, this guy should be the face of irrelevant touchdowns of the week. Keeft, 0.0. In Miami, Durham Smythe, wasn't Gesicki. You can never tell because, again, all the white tight ends there, and they all have like number 80 something.
Mm-hmm.
0.1% of leagues. In Houston, here's a couple names. Jordan Aiken scored. He also got popped and fumbled. I don't know if you saw that. That was a beating. That game was terrible. But also Dare Ogunbowale. I tried to look this up, and
Sounds right.
Yeah, it's 0.2% of leagues. For the Jets, kind of weird. We'll talk about the New York running back situation, but James Robinson was a healthy scratch, and Michael Carter got a little banged up, a little ankle issue. So Ty Johnson got it in the end zone, 1.1% of leagues. They're also playing a guy named Bam Knight as their main guy.
His real first name starts with like a Z. What is it? It's like Zadarius or something.
No.
It's a great name, whatever it is.
Michael Pruitt, second time on here. I remember that name because I thought it was Michael, but it's Michael. He scored, of course. No one relevant in Atlanta did. Joe, I don't know who this is, and you can try to explain to me. I know Washington won, but John Bates. There it is. Zonovan. Not Donovan, but Zonovan night. Bam
That's a
night.
cool name.
I will say, so while we talk about John Bates, who's owned in 0.1% of leagues,
Yeah.
what the hell? I know Brian Robinson had a big day. We'll talk about that later, Joe, but I think Curtis Samuel didn't have a target.
Nope. Curtis Samuel and Taylor Heineke are just not a thing for some reason.
McLaurin didn't have a good game, and then I can't think of his name. First round pick only had one target.
Jahan Dotson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dotson it. So,
he hasn't really
we're
been.
getting John Bates involved, huh?
Yeah, weird. I mean, it was in the red zone. It must have been some red zone package that he was involved. But Jahan Dotson hasn't really been integrated back in since he's been hurt a lot.
He was a Carson Wentz guy.
I mean, Taylor Heineke's not throwing the ball as much as Carson Wentz, just simply put. And this game as well, this was a ground and pound game from both sides of the field with Atlanta, with Washington. They were both running the football. Brian Robinson had a good day. I don't know Antonio Gibson's official stat line, but I don't think
We'll get to it.
He got involved crazy.
He was no good. Couple more names on here. Travis Homer, 0.2% of leagues for Seattle. From Vegas, Amir Abdullah, 1.9. Jawan Jennings, the only touchdown in that San Francisco New Orleans game. He scored 0.3% of leagues. Quez Watkins for Philly, 0.4. And then I'll save this guy for last. Brandon Johnson for Denver, 0.0. I've never heard of this guy in my life, but he scored for Denver. Congrats. They suck. We'll have to have a conversation about Denver probably when we get to their matchup. But that was the irrelevant TDs of the week. Joe, do you want to go into the soups of the week?
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, I do. And also bringing up Antonio Gibson, I went ahead and looked at what he did, and I'm realizing that this man should have been on the other list, not the soups, the Tylers. He needs to be added. I'll make sure to add that in at the end. There's a couple guys on one of these rosters. But yeah, hop into our studs. We do have our soups. There is the soup of the week. That is Josh Jacobs. 30-some carries, over 200 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, like 70-some yards in the air.
All with a bum calf.
Yep. Late week injury report. You never like to see that. I know on the fantasy footballers, Josh Jacobs was dropped from one of the little weekly lineups that they do because of that. And then, God, 50-some fantasy points, 57, I think it was, almost hit the 60 mark with only 2 touchdowns. That's the craziest part. We have some 30-point guys. Chris Godwin just snuck over. Justin Jefferson, Miles Sanders. Some of these guys, I think Godwin and Jefferson both might not be in the 30-point mark if it wasn't for our bonuses and like for 100 yards and stuff. I'm not certain on that, but Miles Sanders had a great day against the Packers on Sunday Night Football.
Miles Sanders definitely got to 30.
Yes, he did. Because I know Jalen Hurts even had over 100 yards, but Miles Sanders, I think, had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then we have not a crazy long list, but some good names on here that scored over 20 points that we always highlight on our soups. James Conner, back to life. I mean, ever since he's been back, he's been the feature back, looking good. He gone, though. We'll talk about that. Ramondre Stevenson continues to get it done. Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, just a couple of wide receivers that consistently have been getting it done. Austin Eckler, no stranger. Brian Robinson, I think this is his first time over 20 points in his young NFL career, so good for him. Adam Thielen and Isaiah McKenzie, a couple of benched wide receivers this week. Jake Willis still going to get the win. A little spoiler, but those were on his bench. Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, Rashad White, and Garrett Wilson. These are 2 names I'll stop because Rashad White didn't get a crazy amount of groundwork, but did get the receiving work in Tampa Bay. Same thing, kind of like Leonard Fournette, what he was getting when he got all the work. Garrett Wilson, the Mike White effect, 2 touchdowns, went off. Christian Watson found the end zone again. Kind of just a broken play with Jordan Love was really his only fantasy output. DK Metcalf, like 11 catches. Zay Jones, the most receiving yards on the week for a wide receiver. Crazy. Amon-Ra St. Brown as well on the Thanksgiving day. Those were our soups of the week. We have our top 5 quarterbacks as always. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, and Trevor Lawrence sneaks in on a game-winning touchdown and 2-point conversion against your Baltimore Ravens. Jalen Hurts looked phenomenal. Josh Allen, the usual on Thanksgiving. Justin Herbert, having Keenan Allen back. Not that Keenan Allen scorched the earth, but seemed to take a big effect. He found the end zone 3 times, I think. Kyler Murray was rushing all over the field. And Trevor Lawrence, like I said, I think he threw for 3 touchdowns as well to wrap up the soups.
Ooh, I mean, I got nothing to say from that. There was just some good Good fantasy outputs there.
Yeah, for sure. We do have some dud.
Yeah, Mo, that team sure did suck last night. They just plain sucked. I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
Yeah, there's some stinkers on here.
Yeah, we do have a big old fat goose egg. Shout out Bryce Perkins. Tyler Higbee leading the Tallers of the week with a 0.0. Just gross to see. Gabe Davis, Jacoby Myers. Actually, we probably could have mentioned shoulder injury. Think he's all right though. He came back in the game. Should be nothing there. Antonio Gibson, right here. I'm blind. I had him on the list already. Antonio Gibson, Mike Evans, Dudu Sniff Schuster found his way back on the Tylers. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who had been getting it done for about like 6, maybe even 7 weeks in a row of double-digit fantasy production, has a dud. Tony Pollard finds the list first time in a while after some big weeks. Debo Samuel, he had some cramping injuries as well. Ended up working through it. Tyler Conk did not goose, but did not find double digits for you. Alan Lazard, this is like 3 weeks of not so good football from Alan Lazard. He had 10 points last week, but this week only 4 targets, 2 catches. Dawson Knox, Devonta Smith, Damian Pierce still MIA. I see a lot of stuff from fantasy networks on social media.
Stat line stinks. I think it was 5 for 8.
It's so gross.
Why did Kyle Allen start?
I don't know, but the last couple games for Damian Pierce, even with Davis Mills, have not been good. Terry McLaurin, you mentioned it earlier. Drake London, Christian Kirk.
Dumb.
I mean, Drake London. The
Atlanta Falcons. I just genuinely like Drake London and genuinely dislike everything else about Atlanta's offense.
I understand. And what happened the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the season when Drake London was looking like the best rookie wide receiver in the draft for fantasy? Just disappeared. Christian Kirk had a dud. This was thanks to Zay Jones going off. Greg Dulcich, a couple weeks in a row now not getting done. Christian McCaffrey, we mentioned. This is like, you don't see him on this list very often. So for him to be under 10 fantasy points is shocking. He is dealing with a little bit of injury as well. Alvin Kamara, not getting it done. Fumbled twice
to the media. Oh my God, dude.
Fumbled
so
twice.
Quick story. The way it's set up is, if you're looking at me, you would be like, if you were on the other side of the room, that's like where one host sits, then the other one's like kind of to my left, and then the other one's straight to my left. And the TV I always put on Red Zone is straight ahead.
This is when you're at work, you're saying?
Yes. They're in the middle of the show. Yeah. And they're just talking, and it's not a big, like, it didn't matter. But like, if there's no phone calls coming on, I really don't need to pay attention. So I'm just watching the game, and I see Kamara go down the sideline or down the like near side, and he gets popped. The ball goes straight in the air, and I was just like, because I was so confused what was going on. I don't know if you saw Fred Warner's reaction. He just stood there with his arms out, and I couldn't tell if he was happy or upset. I didn't know who recovered it. It was madness.
I saw it, but I don't remember it. The ball just like popped straight up.
Yeah. Oh, he got to like maybe the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I know it's right by the goal line.
Someone pops him, and the ball goes straight up, and it was like a tip ball in basketball. And then it came down, and it was a scramble for it. You couldn't tell who got it.
Fred Warner was probably just as lost as we were.
He turned around and just like looked to the heavens and put his arms out. I was like, what is going on right now?
Where's the football?
Yeah. But it was crazy. But that would have saved Kamara's day. But my God, they stink. They didn't score a point.
Yeah, I don't know what. Something similar to that happened with Derrick Henry when he had that breakaway, I think, catch and run.
Let me tell you something real quick.
He got hawked at the 2 yard line, punched out Treylon Burks with the ended up first touchdown of his career, falling on the ball in the end zone.
I don't know if you've been on this, but in Maryland, it's legal to gamble. Online now. On sports. So I have a bunch of like free bets that I have to get out. I think it's through DraftKings. They give you like 200 free, but it's like 8 $25 bets. So I have a couple. And one of them was like anytime touchdown score parlay. It was Derrick Henry, Devontae. Like none of these people fucking scored. Eckler did. And then who else was on there? I don't know. It was someone else that didn't score. But I knew I was in for a rough day when Derrick Henry is on a 75-yard screen, but like 69 yards into that run. I'm like, there's no way he doesn't score here. It gets popped out. And of course, it couldn't even like just be like, oh, they got it back at the 1 and they'll punch it in. Treylon Burks jumps on in the end zone. Yep. Unbelievable.
First career touchdown for Treylon Burks. That's a funny one to look back on. Yeah. Getting back to the Tallers here, George Kittle makes the list. Tyler Boyd, another dud for him. Travis Etienne Jr. did get hurt very early on, but finds his way on this list, even with the foot injury. Our bottom QBs, a couple of names that we haven't seen haven't seen recently, Jimmy G's been getting it done, but he's on this list. Taylor Heineke, they just ran the ball all day. Jimmy G, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and Tua. Tua was the one that I was going to highlight. He came out of the game like second half. They were up 30-0 going into halftime. Tua only had thrown one touchdown with like 200 some yards, but he didn't really have to do much. So this definitely isn't on a bad day from Tua, even though Houston was like storming back in that game. Obviously, it was all for nothing, but it was just kind of a strange game for fantasy purposes because nobody really went off, even though they were up 30-0. Yeah, those are our bottom 5 QBs. Those are the Soups and Tylers. I hope you started the Soups, sat the Tylers.
Speaking of the Tyler Boyd thing, by the way, could have been mentioned at the top. I think Jamar Chase is expected back.
Yes,
next
I
week,
believe so as well.
Let's do a little trade talk.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right, we're both involved in one, so I'll let you break down mine, and I'll break down yours.
Sure. So this one's a big one. I mean, these are some names in this list right here in this trade.
It should be mentioned, by the way. Well, go ahead. You do it first, and then I'll tell you. This trade isn't complete.
All right. Oh, well, okay. Sam Smith is going to be receiving from Testoni, James Conner, Dalton Schultz, and A.J. Brown. I mean, 3 large names in the fantasy world. James Conner, who we just mentioned, he's going on bye this week. That's definitely huge for you, considering I know where you're at. Fighting down at the bottom at the moment. Dalton Schultz, 2 touchdowns on Thanksgiving. A.J. Brown has kind of been lulling at the moment, but I don't think anybody's really worried, you could say. That touchdown, by the way, was definitely huge in median matchup.
I know, I'm aware. I still don't think I'm going to win.
We'll see what happens. But Testoni, on the flip side, is receiving some also giant names. Saquon Barkley getting traded. Testoni will be receiving Saquon Barkley, Christian Kirk, and Garrett Wilson. Christian Kirk's been on and off this season, but for the most part been on. Garrett Wilson with the Mike White effect, 2 touchdowns, had a great week. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to talk about on the value or the trades. I mean, Sam is getting a lower running back to upgrade his wide receiving core, also getting a better tight end. I know he's been struggling in that position because he did have Kyle Pitts for a long time. And I mean, your running backs, obviously, you couldn't really deal with a bye week by James Conner. You've been kind of dealing your bye players to get guys to be able to fill in for you. And Christian Kirk, Garrett Wilson, I mean, that's your wide receiver 2 and flex, I'm sure, going out. I don't know if you have any comments on why you made it, what happened, really.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't want to give up James Conner, but he had a bye week, and I really couldn't afford it. At the end of the day, I was like, do I want to upgrade my RB1? Because I guess Conner was.
Yeah.
The running backs I'm running out there are James Conner, Deonta Foreman, and Latavius.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to run out Saquon now, and then A.J. Brown was obviously the big thing to give up. And then, Christian Kirk and Garrett Wilson, I think I can kind of piece together because I still have Devontae.
Yep.
I'm also supposed to be setting J.K. Dobbins back because I'm also going to be getting Greg Dulcich. We couldn't do it at yesterday's point because of technically.
So that's why I wasn't over. I get it.
Yes, because he is on my IR, and then people are locked on the bench just because of like those rules. But I will be getting Greg Dulcich back, and I don't really care about J.K. Dobbins. I don't think he really has it.
Yeah.
Your trade, you sent Tyler Higbee. Excuse me. You sent Gerald Everett and Isaiah Pacheco to Bryce for Tyler Higbee. Bryce is just a Kansas City Chief guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. That's for sure.
I'm sure you weren't too happy with this first week.
No, not very happy. I was under the hopes of John Wolford getting the start this week. I know he was limited practicing, I believe, this past week. But I know when he did get to start, Higbee still had 8 targets. He had 8 catches. And I was really hoping it wasn't going to be Bryce Perkins. And now that I'm seeing after this trade, as information came out that Matthew Stafford may be out for the rest of the season as well. So this trade has kind of just it's blown up in my face. I really was trying to move Everett to get a different piece in my tight end spot because of Keenan Allen coming back and because of Mike Williams assuming to come back in the near future. So I was trying to move off of that a little bit. Isaiah Pacheco was like the 5th running back on my team. Actually, I do have some decent running back depth there. And so I was willing to make this trade on the hopes that Wolford would still start, who was able to get it done with Higbee. And I'm really hoping that that is the case moving forward, because if it's Bryce Perkins, I have no possible way to start him. So yeah, like I said, I mean, this has turned into be a terrible trade for me if this is how the future looks, because Tyler Higbee, obviously we mentioned it, 0.0 this week on 0 targets, because Bryce Perkins threw the ball 5 completions on 10 attempts, I believe. So just, yeah, Isaiah Pacheco, lead guy in Kansas City, obviously now doesn't really get involved in the passing work. But so I felt at the time that I felt it was doable for me to kind of get a small upgrade in the tight end position, but things have changed. So I'm kind of upset that I made the trade.
Well, that was trade talk.
Yeah, and I'll hop right into our fantasy matchup recap. We do have 3 games that are going to be determined by Monday night. That is me and Testoni. Tessoni is currently up by 12.6 points. I do have Zaire Franklin, still linebacker for the Colts, to play tonight for us when we're recording. You'll hear this. It have already happened. We'll see what happens there. Atkins and Andy. Andy is chasing 45 points with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. So says
can't let that happen. I do not want that.
You were giving me the no. I thought that you were telling me that I said something wrong. I was
no,
like, what
no,
happened?
I just don't want that to happen.
Yep. I feel you. So yeah, Atkins up by 45. He's hoping those 2 players do not score 46 fantasy points. And lastly, we have Derek and Spano. This one's probably the farthest stretch, but you never know what might happen. Derek has TJ Watt still to play, and Spano has Najee Harris and George Pickens, a few Steelers in this matchup. And Derek is up by about 40 points. I think it's about 35 technically in this matchup.
Can't have that.
That's another one that you do not want to happen. So you're rooting for Derek and Atkins.
I need Spano and Andy to keep losing, and then if I can somehow pull it out, I'd be in great shape. So big night for me.
Yep, no kidding. And on the flip side, we do have 3 matchups that are finalized. Shout out Jake Wills, first win of the week. Jake Wills will move to 6-6 against Bryce, who will drop down to 4-8. Jake Wills had big days from Lamar, Austin Eckler, newly acquired Brian Robinson, had a few 20-point receivers on the bench we mentioned. He's sitting at 140 with Pat Fryermuth still to go. Bryce is only at 103. He's dropping to 4-8, like I said. He doesn't have a single 20-point player. Patrick Mahomes with 19.4. Isaiah Pacheco did find the end zone, had 15 fantasy points, and that's really it there. Jackson continues his run. Even when one of his 3 stud running backs, or really both of them, 2 out of the 3 had bad days. Josh Jacobs with 57 points. Make sure to pick up the slack. He's sitting at 199. He's all wrapped up. Justin Jefferson, Josh Jacobs, DK Metcalf, and Kyler Murray highlighting his lineup. And on the flip side, Sam Smith is going to drop to 6-6. I don't know if I set up a Jackson's 11-1 now. Sam Smith 6-6. Justin Herbert found the end zone 3 times, 28 points. Rashad White with 20.9 fantasy points. Got it done in the air a lot here, and that's really it on his lineup. He did have Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson on the bench that both scored 20-plus fantasy points. And lastly, the last matchup that is finalized, Soup is moving to 5-7, getting the win versus Diego, who is dropping down to 5-7. Soup had a great week, 181. Jalen Hurts, 31 fantasy points. Miles Sanders, 32 fantasy points. Amon-Ra, 28. And then just a bunch of teens fantasy putouts from Tyler Kill, DeAndre Hopkins, David Njoku found the end zone on a great catch. On the flip side, Diego had Travis Etienne, got hurt. Taylor Heineke, one of the worst starting quarterbacks of the week. CeeDee Lamb almost got to 20 points. Samaje Perine looked good, filling in for Joe Mixon, just under 20 points as well. Soup is getting the win, 181 to 119. And the other 3 I already mentioned, those are all up to Monday night tonight. So we'll see what happens there.
Sorry, I was losing my mind looking at Bryce's roster. So we have a 17-man roster. 10
Yep.
starters, 7 bench, and then you possibly can have an 18th person if you have someone on IR. So
Oh, he
Bryce has
does.
someone on IR. He has 18 players, and a third of his roster are Kansas City Chiefs. I couldn't
Yep.
believe it.
He's got three in the starting lineup, 3 on the bench if you
Oh
include the
my
IR
God.
slot.
I was just like going down. I was like, oh my God, there's another one, and
Mm-hmm.
another one, and another one. I couldn't. Oh my God, what is he doing? Anyways, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hit the Sunday recap.